Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of AI Show. Hi, Bea.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. And I hope you watched last episode with Seth, and he talked about machine learning and like why would you use different services with image recognition. And we are going to continue today recording a session of a smaller show with two guests for language translation. I hope you join us, and then we will get your questions after the show.
And I'm super excited about this show because it's like it gives us superpowers. Like the Matrix when you like plug something in and then kung fu. I feel like that now. I can like speak Chinese. I can just like use this thing and I can speak Chinese.
I know, right? The documentation, the document translation is really cool. It's so funny. Krishna and Mohamed is waiting in the background, but while we are talking about their product.
I know, right?
Yeah. I know if you've seen the document translation, you basically give it any kind of document and it keeps your layout too, which is really cool. Hi, Andrew. Welcome to the show. I hope you have questions for us later on.
Yeah, we love audience participation, so please let us know your name, where you're from.
And say hi in your language, maybe.
Yeah, maybe we can get that translated.
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah, and Bea, thank you for doing the last show. And there was lots of people asking questions, and we were really happy to see all of the interactions.
We love audience participation. We love our live audience. So
it makes us feel like we're not alone.
Exactly.
All right. I hope everyone is slowly coming in. Let me. Oops. Let me see. We have 12 people right now. Hello, everyone. Okay. So maybe I'll start with Krishna and Mohamed before everyone joins. And you will be on the chat, I'm sure. And apologies in advance that while we are recording, we're not going to be able to answer any questions. But maybe you can answer some of it. Okay, cool. Hi, Krishna. And hi, Mohamed. I muted both of you, I guess. Here we go. And
you can take me off.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
You might remember Krishna from last year's show, getting hyped for a rainy weekend in Seattle. Oh, yeah. Mohamed and Krishna is also in Seattle.
Yeah, it's good to join the show again. So we did a couple of shows going into document translation while it was in development phase, and once it got shipped out. And happy to do one more show here to talk more in detail about the translation overview, and having Mohamed joining us to go in depth on custom translation.
I know, yeah, I am really excited. I'm also very excited because I'm going to use the custom translation. So I'm going to get my questions answered too.
Lovely.
All right. Are you guys feeling ready to get started?
Yep.
And we can always restart. So don't worry too much. You can just tell me and I can restart it. Okay. Okay. I guess I'm going to start with. Oh no. 3, 2, 1. I'm going to start talking. It's so hard to be said. Hi, everyone. You're not going to want to miss this episode of AI Show where we are going to talk about Azure Translator. What do you guys think? I think Seth is doing a much better job. I'm going to redo it. Hi, everyone. You're not going to want to miss this episode of AI Show where we're going to talk about Azure Translator. Hi, Krishna. Hi, Mohamed. Thank you for coming to our show. And please introduce yourself and tell us what you do at Microsoft.
I'm Krishna. I'm Principal Program Manager at Microsoft. I own the core translator service.
Great. Mohamed?
Mohamed Al Ghazali. I'm the feature PM for Custom Translator. And hopefully we'll get you excited about our upcoming portal.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. And Krishna, can you tell us about what are the problems that you're solving in the translation service?
Oh, okay. Can you switch the screen?
Sure. You can.
Thanks. Okay. First, let's understand what's this translator service. The Microsoft Translator Service has been in the market since 2007. It means we have been in the market for 14 plus years. The same service which is used in Microsoft products, including Edge browser, Office apps, Bing, SwiftKey, is made available to everyone through Azure Coordinator Services. The service provides an interface to translate text into multiple languages, as well as transliterate from one script to another. Likewise, we have an interface to translate whole documents, retaining the layout and structure of the documents as in the source. You could also translate batches of large documents into multiple languages. The service is enterprise ready with Azure Active Directory authentication and managed identity, which provides better control on deploying the service across the organization. This is an overview on the translation, and if you want to see what specific problem we are solving, right? Let me highlight some of the unique problems we solve. Retake. Let me highlight some of the unique problems we solve. Number one, break the language barrier between people and culture. We are continuously adding languages and dialects to the service, which at the same time keep on improving the translation accuracy of already supported languages. Now, a customer could translate either text or documents across any of the 100 plus languages, including the digitally low resourced and endangered languages supported by the translator service.
This is great. 100 languages is a lot.
Yeah, that's an awesome milestone. The key thing is by supporting the digitally low resourced and endangered languages, we are breaking the language barrier. Not only that, it's important how we handle the customer data in a secure and compliant manner. Translator service passed several regulatory compliances, including GDPR, HIPAA, SOC, and HITRUST. This instills assurance on how securely the service handles customer data submitted for translation. The service doesn't persist any of the customer data or use it for quality improvements internally. Number three, we would let the customer decide where the translation request is processed by picking desired service endpoints and resource geography. For example, if a customer has users across the globe and want low latency, using global endpoint is desired as the request is processed by any of the nearby data centers. Same time, customers choosing endpoint of Europe geography will ensure the translation request is processed within the data centers in Europe. Customer data submitted for translation, as I mentioned earlier, is not persisted at all. These are the key differentiators we have in terms of the problem solving.
This is great. So if you have a conversation that you don't want to be sharing with any company, you can still use it, and we're not going to use it, which is really cool.
Yep.
And the other question I was going to ask you, you mentioned latency, and that also means that we can translate synchronously, right? While we're talking, we can translate what we are talking about. It's not just batch translation.
The service has two types, right? So the one is the text translation, which is near real-time synchronous translation, where you provide the text and it returns immediately. And there is another translation service, which is a document translation service, where you translate large documents asynchronously in a batch mode.
Great, thank you. And Mohamed, can you tell us about the challenges of creating the service?
There are many challenges to producing accurate and fluent translation for a domain-specific terminology. Example, if you are building translation engine for automotive, health and science, financial, legals, etc. Though we build general domain neural machine translation language models, which powers our products like Microsoft Edge, Bing Translate, Dynamic 365, Office 365, as well as many third-party products. Those are trained on general data we harvest across all public domains. Then we put them through human evaluation to ensure high translation quality at all times. But the challenges of a specific domain accuracy, fluency, and being able to adapt those general domain models to a particular customer need, that would actually require customization to achieve higher adherence to the domain-specific terminology and style required by customers. And for that, the customization itself enables the translator service that Krishna will show how to use it to apply the domain-specific terms and phrases when the context calls for it, and produce a fluent translation that respects the context-dependent grammar of the target language. This is kind of like the best way to do it. Of course, there is another way. A customer can build their own in language engine from scratch, but that will be very costly and time consuming. I think, just from my own experience, that starting with a pre-trained models like the one we provide is the best choice to move faster at a good price point across the board.
Agreed. And do I have to be an AI specialist to be able to create my custom translations?
That's a good question. Few customers do actually ask me that. No, you don't need to be an AI specialist or even a developer to build custom translation systems for your own domain specific. Our MT researchers and engineers do the heavy lifting on your behalf to enable you to come to our custom translator online portal so you can start customizing from the Microsoft pre-built models and adapt them to your need through a simple process, which I will demo shortly. And just in a nutshell, the process is basically you create a project, which is your language pair that you care about. As an example, I will be showing kind of like German to English. That's a language pair. And then you upload your data, which is a previously translated in domain documents. And I will show the flavors of the different documents, especially our customer love PDF files and docx files, as well as translation memory if they have them. So we address many flavors to be able to basically kind of like customize. The second step is basically select the data you need and just train the model. To let our system learn the preferred translation in context. So when you request translations, we can apply these terms and phrases when the context calls for it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, before you make it publicly available to your production, you would definitely need to test the model to ensure that it meets your fluency, it meets the translation quality for the target language you need. And finally, you basically publish it and start consuming it in real time. The demo, how simple it is. Basically, that's what I'll be showing later on.
Great. Can we see it?
Absolutely. I was hoping you would ask that question.
Yeah, let's see it in work.
So before I start, I'd like to state some assumptions. Those assumptions are I'm making an assumption that you have already created the translator resource using the Azure portal, and you have created your first container, we call it workspace, which will host all your language engines as well as all the documentations that you are going to upload. We will provide lots of documentations and video, quick start video, to make it super easy for you to actually go back to this video and learn. So let's get on it.
Great.
And show you where we start. So this is, again, it's in private preview right now. Will be available in public preview the first or the second week of December. Just to get excited, you just basically log in and you use your Microsoft account. In my case, I'll just use the my Microsoft account. And if you've been there, as I mentioned, and you've already created at least one container or a workspace, we're going to take you into your default workspace. In my case, basically, I've already created that just to accelerate the process. And I've created a couple of projects. Creating a project is really simple. You just click on create. You give it the name that you want. Okay. And select what is your source language. In my case, basically, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to pick English. And then select the target language. Again, I'm going to pick German. And then what is the domain you want that to basically group all the relevant language translation systems into that. So in my case, I'm actually going to pick just automotive and say create a project. Once the project is created, you'll see it, and then you click on it. And then if there are any documents that for that language pair, which I do, because I built another one, it will be available to use in this new project that I've created. And then you can add your own documents. There are multiple document types. The training set, which is the major one to teach a translator your terminology. And if you want to use your own test set, which we don't touch, we just basically, when your model is trained, they're ready to use, we basically use that. And the tuning set. We prefer that you let us pick that from the tuning and the testing from your training set. We take a small portion of that. And for this reason, we make a minimum requirement of 10,000 parallel sentences. And I will show that in the document momentarily. And finally, if you don't have any training material, you can actually build what we call it a dictionary-only translation engine, which is super easy. You can literally have 5 lines of source and target, and you can use our pre-trained model, and you bring those on top of it, and you deploy, and you're done. That's simple. So in my case, basically, I'm going to grab some training data. And there are different flavors. There are parallel documents. There is the translation memory. A lot of our enterprise customers, they use that. And you can actually upload a zip file. The zip file is super nice feature. If you have hundreds and thousands of documents you want to upload, you just zip them and upload the zip file, and we'll take care of the rest to start parsing those files and put them in your project for that.
So Mohamed,
an example.
Let me get this straight. We don't have to do anything to our data, make it in specific format. All we do is upload the files.
That is correct. We take care of it for you. The only part that we prefer that you do, though, again, we do a lot of the heavy liftings on your behalf, it is if you start with high quality parallel data. That will take you a long way to reduce the number of times you want to iterate to achieve the translation quality you desire.
What do you mean by quality?
Yes.
What do you mean by it? What would qualify as quality data?
We have a set of examples that we have documented on our website to explain what a good quality, which is, in a nutshell, if you have documents that have already been human translated, that will be high quality.
Great.
Okay. If you don't, no worries. We still can consume web pages if you download them as an HTML files. Like here, we can consume text files, HTML. Of course, I mentioned PDF, and you'll see those, and docx among aligned data. I'm not going to worry about that for now. But you can bring your own documents and not have to worry about whether it's human human translated or not, human created or not. We will do our best, basically, to do cleanup for you when you build your model.
Great.
Okay, so before I talk about parallel document, because this kind of documents and the translation memory are the most commonly used documents. Let me show you what the parallel document is all about. I mentioned PDF. So in the PDF, you have your source or target. It doesn't matter. They can be interchangeably. In this one, the English source, okay? And it's the target in German. So this is a PDF that I actually produced from a Word document, a docx. Either one of those, you just kind of like upload, and we'll take care of parsing the text, only the text. And we make sure that we align it to between the source and the target. Okay.
And
So this is what a parallel document. Another flavor of a parallel document, of course, I mentioned the Word document. There's also the text, which is the simplest of all forms. Just a text document, one source and one target. So this is how it works. You go there and you basically pick the one. In my case, I'm actually going to pick the PDF, and those two files actually the docx and PDF are the same. Okay, and I'll pick the target, which is this one right here. And then simply I say upload. But since I already uploaded this, just for the interest of time, of course, you have to give it a name, whatever name you want. And just click upload. I'm not going to do that because I already uploaded this document, but it's really that simple. And all your documents. And if you want to use your zip file, let me show you a zip file. You browse and you just go to where you have your zip file. This one right here. And this one actually looks like this. So this is the same file that I'm going to select, and you can see all these docx files that I actually zipped in here instead of doing kind of like parallel document, which it takes time, a long time. You just zip it and just do a zip file, and when you're done. That's how simple. Okay. So again, I'm not going to upload that because it's really simple. Again, I've already done that for you. So once you bring all your document and you're ready to actually train the model, you just click on the Train tab. The Train tab has a lot of nice feature. You basically name the model you want, AI show, and I always like to use kind of like I'm taking it from English to German, and you can name it anything you want. And if you select full training, it means you want us to learn from your documents. Okay, and that's where the 10,000 minimum requirements, which is highlighted right here, okay, will be applicable. If you don't have that many documents, you can actually select a dictionary only, as I mentioned, and we will show you the dictionary documents that is available in your project. In this case, this one right here, okay. And then you can select that and train with it, right? Going back to the full training, super cool to know before you decide to train how much it will cost you. So if you select one file, it will basically, this particular one has 60 sentences and it will cost you to 22 cents. And if you select all the files, because you still need to meet the minimum requirement. So right now we haven't met the minimum requirement. So I'm going to select all of them from here instead of just pick and choose. And that now I actually met the minimum requirement. We greened the bar for you to know that you're there. And this will cost me $236.23. If you have more data, the maximum that you will pay it would be $300. That's the maximum that you would pay for a training. Some customers actually, they have more than 1 million parallel sentences, and we only charge them $300 for that particular training. Okay. And then you basically say, if you click train now, it will go there and start training. I'm actually going to start this, but I'm not going to wait for it because I want to show you the cool things that the notification that we have for you. When you click train now, again, just to confirm, it will actually kick off the training, and it will tell you the different phases that you're going to go through. It will tell you that you submitted your training. Once everything is in our training facility, then we'll start the data processing. Then the next step, if it's successful, it will be the training. We will queue your data for training. And if it's successful, then we'll basically schedule it. And when it's done, we'll give you a notification that your model has been trained successfully. You can dismiss those notifications. And you can, if anytime you want to look at what's happening, you can actually click on that one and you see it. Or you can yeah. It's cool, isn't it?
Yeah, I really like seeing the price before you click because we had tools, but they were all in different places. I'm glad it's built into the tool now.
Absolutely. And now, since I'm not actually going to wait for that, now you train it and we give you the signal that it is successful. So let's look at a pre-trained model to look at the glorious information that is available to you. And where are we? Okay. The model details. So this is a pre-trained model. We give you just quickly information about the blue score, and I'll come back to this one to explain it in context for you. How many training data we used, what were the tuning and testing, which is why we extracted from the training data. Okay, so when you click on the model itself, we'll give you the glorious data that you're looking for. This particular model is actually achieved 8.34 blue points higher than our baseline. Let me explain what that means. Our baseline is actually the one that we pre-trained for you, okay? And the blue score, this is your custom version of it with your own data, okay? And what we did, basically, we took the test set, which we don't touch except just to produce this number, and we balance it against our baseline, the one that you used, and against your custom version of it. And we'll give you an indication which one you really should deploy. In particular, this one is really an awesome model that you should deploy. I mean, when you see kind of like a 2-point, 3-point, usually you would see about 10 points on average, higher than the blue score, again, subject to the language pair, you deploy that. And here we tell you basically how many hours it took to train it based on the data again. And we give you the unique endpoint, we call the category ID, that Krishna is going to show you how to use it to actually start request and translation after you deploy the model. Okay. And if we're ready to publish it, like in this one right here, basically you say, yeah, I need to publish that. So you click on that one. And we tell you that no matter what, every region that you select, we will charge you $10 per region per month. Okay, you can deploy the same model in the same region multiple times. When you are iterating, it will still be what, $10. It's just for the entire month.
And this is for deployment, not for the usage, is it?
Correct. This is for deployment to host your model, because we still need to we bear cost to actually deploy your model in our infrastructure, and we're charging you a minimum amount to keep it running for you. But Christian is going to talk about once this one is deployed, okay, and this is what you do it. In my case, I'm going to deploy it in North America. I could also select Europe or Asia, and I say publish. When it's published, and again, it will actually, it will tell you that it is being published. Once it's fully deployed and published, then Krishna is going to show you how to start using that model in real time. Okay, that's different when you request translation. It's different charges than what you see right here. These are one-time, excuse me. Training is one-time cost when you train on the model, and hosting is a monthly cost. other than the real-time translation. Okay.
Great.
Once you deploy your model, you can, even before that you deploy the model, you can actually go there to the test to look at your test data set and look at, if you click here, it will actually show you the test set that we used, and we give you something that is very quickly like from the test set, you actually can look at what was the reference and your new model, how it translated, and our base model, how it translated. So that's just to give you an idea of what it looks like. Okay. Okay. And finally, as I mentioned, you just published the model, which I have already started. Okay. So that's all to it, actually. Once this is done, then you need to consume the model. And that's where Krishna is going to basically show you how to do that.
That's great. Thank you. Krishna, can you show us how do we add the custom models to our product?
Sure. So before I jump into that, I would like to reiterate a few things as part of the show. So Mohamed mentioned about you can provide the document in zip file or Word or PDF, and we take care of it processing. How we take care of it, it's all automated. So it's totally eyes off from our side. We don't look into any of your data. Through an automated process, it passes your zip file and passes your Word or PDF file and extracts the content from it, and it does the alignment. Everything is done automated without any human intervention or human picking into any of your data. So we have a very stringent and secure about how we handle customer data during the deployment, during the development.
Thank you.
And once the model is developed, as Mohamed was mentioning, you will get a, model ID, and that's where we use it. So the custom model is built using the customer data, or the general model built using the data what Microsoft acquired from the web or purchased through licensing. All of them could be used both in the text translation as well as the document translation API. And it's very simple to use. So all you do is, in case of while translating text, the model ID is passed as the value to the query as a query parameter category. And likewise, while translating documents, you provide the model ID as in the request body. The service would take this model ID and automatically pick up the respective custom model runtime during the translation and applies it. It's that simple to consume your model.
This is great. And I know that we can also consume it in a container with just deploying, pushing our container with the same ID. Is that correct? For speech, for example.
Pardon?
For text to speech, text translation for speech, that was one of the things that I noticed. Is that true?
Yes. So we do have a speech translation. So the speech translation could also it could be used through the speech SDK, where you provide your model ID, whether it's a general or custom model, and then applies the translation accordingly. So that is inbuilt as part of the speech SDK. And we do have a container offering in public preview. It's with a limited feature set. And in this AI show, we are not covering that in detail. We would find another AI show to cover about Translator container.
Thank you so much. It seems like it's very easy to use, and I'm really, really excited about this. And can you tell us more about where people can go and find out?
Absolutely. So we do have a bunch of resources. We would add them as part of the links in the show. So there's a documentation where it's a single URL, easy to remember, Translator docs, where you can find out text translation, document translation, as well as the how to build custom models. And we do have a SDK in Python and .NET, and we have sample apps in the GitHub which could help you to translate on the go without doing any development. You can just deploy the app and use it. And the nice custom translator portal, which Mohammed showed. And we have a great quick starts in terms of code samples and videos for you to get onboarded quickly end to end. And we do have the translator service exposed to consumers through consumer app as it's a Microsoft Translator app. You can get it in Android, iOS, or in the internet, translate.microsoft.com.
Thank you so much. This was a lot of information, and thanks for showing us this new studio. Before we go, is there anything else that you would like to add?
So, as a closing note, I would like to mention that the field of mission translation is evolving very rapidly, and we are keeping in phase with it and continuously improving our quality of mission translation models. And what you see, the level of quality a couple of years back, and now there's a significant improvement. So, for some people would have tried mission translation a few years back and given up for the scenario. I would urge them try it again. And the field is evolving, and you will find it's getting closer to the human translation quality.
And now it's very easy to try it out without writing any code, which is great.
Yep.
Thank you, Mohamed, and thank you, Krishna, for joining us. Today we talked about Azure translation, and thank you for watching. Hi, everyone. Thank you for your patience, and we can take your questions now. Sorry, we couldn't do that before. Hi, Beth. Did you guys feel good about it? Are you happy? There was lots of information, and thank you.
And we have lots of questions. We have lots of questions.
Let us start.
Actually, I just want to say, like, highlight my two favorite things in the demo, or in the things that you're showing, the things that you're delivering. I just love the focus on security, on just privacy, like not using the customer data for training, even for training, and also, yeah. I just love the superpower that this gives me, just being able to just translate everything, right? But I also love the fact that you're so transparent about the pricing. To me, that's just great, right? Like, because then people know exactly what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah,
so I love it. So anyway, so I want to take some questions. So Prasanna has lots of questions. He asked, what is the most complex challenge that your early adopter customers have faced with this tool?
I'll take this one, Krishna. Initially, we actually started with our current portal. And I'll be frank with you, our documentation is not that greatest in the world. And we're changing that in two ways. Number one, we want our new portal, the one that I just demoed, to be intuitive. So you think of something, you click on something, it's doing what you want it to do. What I call it the iPhone paradigm, if you will. And it will be guided experience. So you don't need to think which step in the process are you in. We're going to take you kind of like through the process from creating your project, which is your language pair, into uploading the data, the training, testing, deploying, and off you go to start consuming it in real time. Before we actually, you would actually have to go to documentation to learn more about that. I tried to complement our deficiency in documentation, I'm not shy to say that, with a quick start video that I published last year to make it super easy for you just to watch the video. It's about a 1-hour video on YouTube, and to see basically from an end to end, which answers a lot of questions that you won't find in the documentations and answer to them. So that's where we started. This is where we're heading. That's one thing. The second thing it is, we're actually doing something about it. Again, our error messages, it's kind of like, for the most part, is standard, they're not really actionable. In the new portal, those are going to be different. They will be actionable. We'll tell you exactly what the problem is. And if it's something that you can fix on your own, you will actually know how to do it. A good example, very frequently, customers, when they are uploading data, they have problems with the data itself, okay? And the upload would fail. We're going to point you to where the problem is, even to the line number, where you can actually very quickly go there, fix it, retry the upload, and off you go. These are what we call it actionable messages to make our customers' life a lot easier. Last but not least, it's the data quality that I mentioned. We prefer having kind of like human curated data, which means high quality, the highest that you can get for the parallel documents. But sometimes it's not available. A company that needs to start in the translation, they will need to grab data from the web. It's okay. You just grab it down and try it, and we will work with you to clean it up after you train your first model, because we try to do a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of filtering, cleaning up the data, aligning the data before we actually train your model to give you a decent model to begin with, and then you can iterate to maybe improve the quality of that model.
And also for the translation, you mentioned it's better to have a person translate it, and the data doesn't have to be your specific version. I mean, one thing that I did was I took from a website that I knew was translated by a person who had the language that I needed, specific technical language that I needed. So
yeah, if you know that, this is high quality data, because you already know that it is a human translated the data. So if you download it as an HTML and you use it as is and you upload it, but you need to make sure that you have the source and the target side by side when you upload, like I did with the PDF. So to make sure that we align the sentences for you.
That's great. Yeah, it is super useful.
Thank you.
So I also want to talk about, I know we have questions, the use cases. Why would we want to custom translate? I mean, in my case, for example, I work with mixed reality, and there's specific terms, right? There's WebXR, HoloLens. All of these terms were not readily available. So I took it from our documentation website, actually, the translations, and train it with that model. Which
go ahead, Krishna.
I'll take that. Okay, so there are a couple of areas where you will go for custom translation. One is when the terminology is different. So WebEx is a terminology what you use in your in your company, and how you want to treat it is one. Second is the domain adaptation. So the terminology what you use, say in healthcare, which is different from what you use in the general domain. So if you want to have the translation adapting to your domain, that's where you would use custom translation.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Bae, what's the next
We have more questions. Yeah. So Prasanna also asked if the source document language is different from what you specify as a source language. Is a service smart enough to ignore, or will it error out?
If you do a parallel upload and we look at the source and we do not understand the language that you're using, in other words, we do apply script that defines the language, whether it's a source or a target, we will fail that. Okay. So whatever language that you're using when you created the project, you need to make sure that the source and target are of those languages. Otherwise, basically, kind of like you're feeding garbage, and we'll try to fail that.
Just to be clear, so we don't detect the language of the source document. We consume what the user provides.
Got it. That's clear. Thank you. We have another question from Prasanna also. What is the max file size of data that I can use for translation? So he says, I would like to translate text in a CSV file, sample data, to convert to 4 different languages. Is that even possible?
Well, the CSV is not supported, and for good reason, because we need to have the source sentence and the target sentence so we can align them together. So when we feed it to the training, we'll know that this is what should be translated to. So the model will actually learn the context, the vocabulary, so on and so forth. CSV is not supported. The largest file size that you can use, actually, it's not the content of the file. It is the file size itself because of the upload. We have a limitation right now to the file has to be 100 megabyte. Okay, but you can use a zip file, which would contain hundreds and maybe thousands of smaller files. So as far as the content, the number of sentences you can use, I trained a model with 50 million parallel sentences. Those 50 million parallel sentences, you cannot fit them in one file to be 100 megabyte. So I had to break it down into multiple files to upload. Again, the challenge is the upload, not how many sentences you can have or the content that you have in the file.
And I would check with Prasanna whether when he means translating the CSV file to convert to 4 different languages, is it in the context of model training, or is it in the context of translating the content? If it's going to be in the context of translating a .csv file into 4 different languages, that is possible. So the document translation feature would allow you to provide .csv as a source file, and you could translate in a single request into 4 or a number of languages supported by the service.
I have a follow-up.
Yeah, but just to make sure, I'm talking about customizing and building your own custom model. The CSV is not available now. The real-time translation is different story. Just to make sure. Thank you for the clarification, Krishna.
And follow-up question on that. I have a dictionary of terms in a CSV file. Like, how would I use it as a dictionary instead? Would I have to give it one by one?
The best way to load a dictionary, and again, to actually train a custom model, just put in an Excel file, 2 columns. The first columns, it will contain your source, and the second column, it will contain your target. And which one is first is irrelevant. Your project language pair will determine which is which. And then the first row, you just put in the first column the language code, and in the of the source or target, and the second column, the target or the source, okay, the language code, and that's all you need. It's pre-aligned for you. You upload it, and off you go. That's one way of doing it. That's the easiest way. And the reason I say that's the easiest way, because you need to make sure that the number of lines in your source is equivalent to the number of lines in your target. If they're not equivalent, when you try to upload the file, it will fail. Okay? So it's really easy. I have customers who have thousands of terminology phrases. They actually load them in one file, one column and a second column, done. You don't need to do it at 1Z2Z.
Great.
We have another question. Thank you, Dennis, for your question. He's asking, is there any computer-assisted translation available to correct and choose translated words? And can the model be trained based on user correction? Example, choosing from synonyms.
That's great.
There are, Kat, there are third-party companies. They actually provide these capabilities to be able to basically take the translations, do annotation, save it, and probably serve your production environment from that to make sure that the translation is always meeting your standard. If you want to bring in the annotated text, So, which is excellent idea, and our customers do that. You just need to bring in the new data set with the annotated data, upload it again into your project, the language pair, retrain your model, and then the new annotated sentences or new sentences, your model will learn from it and will generalize even better. But there is no direct loop to connect the two today. And I'm going to stress on today. And that's all I'm going to say about it.
That's great news.
Oh, you get secrets in the AI show, feature secrets.
Now we know. Can you just explain the annotations for people who might not be familiar?
A translation comes, and usually it comes in the form of usually people will translate a full document, and they look at the translation, and then they start human being would actually go through all the sentences that were produced, and they will start making correction, word correction or grammatical correction, to make sure that the translation is what they are looking for. That's where we call it human in the loop. Okay, and then they use that and they put it in their CAT system to make sure that their different apps and whatnot, they start using those. Now, that particular document that got modified by a human, this is very powerful content that needs to be brought back to retrain the same engine. So the engine will learn even better. And that it will actually show that in the next time the same sentence translated, it will almost come out the way that it was annotated.
Great. Babe, do you have an extra question for us?
I have another comment. Prasanna is also saying that showing cost as part of training. Love that feature. Oh yeah, and also the one that just got posted here. So AVRO format not supported?
Not today. Again, here we're talking about uploading to train, to customize. We have listed on the slide that I projected, listed some of the file formats, but AVRO is not supported.
And Dennis is also is also saying, waiting for that to be GA. Where to look for news on that? Love the excitement, Dennis. Thank you.
So there's a translator blog. So in the resource slide, we have the account.ms translation blog. So we'll look for that.
There will be a big marketing splash when you actually do that. That's number one. And the second part, if you go to the custom translator documentation, and in the resources, you have the link. I have a release tab there or blade, and you can actually read there. And what's even more importantly, when you come, and as I mentioned, the public preview, it will be either the first or the second week of December. Yes, first or second week of December. And if everything goes fine and our customers are extremely happy, then our targeting our GA to actually be in the January, February timeframe. That's how close what you just saw you'll be able. Plus, there will be more features added as well.
And how can people sign up to do the public preview?
They don't need to sign up, and basically, when they go to the portal, business as usual, we're going to take them straight into the new portal, and we will give them the options if they want to fall back to the currently running portal. That will be available for a while, but we believe once they start using the new portal, they will love it and they will stick with it.
Yeah, it looks pretty nice and neat.
Yeah, Victor agrees. He says, Universal Translator, that is good.
Hello, Victor.
Thank you, Victor.
Great. Any other questions that we have? I
don't think we have any other questions. Lots of hellos and looks great and comments like that. But I think that's it as far as questions. So people, this is your last chance. If you still have any questions, you have one more chance before. Victor says you're welcome. before we lose our guest. So just let us know. Do you have any other questions for our guests?
Yeah, I have one last question personally. Like this is what I can imagine. Every language is very different from each other. I mean, what are the challenges that you are running into?
You mean to add a new language or to build a custom model?
To add a new language.
Okay, so the biggest challenge what we face to add a new language is the parallel data. Typically, when it's going to be a low resourced or endangered language, the number of native speakers are so low, and that's where we do engage with the language communities. So there would be community leaders of the endangered language. We partner with them, and if typically the universities and government comes forward and introduce us to the community, and the community has content in various forms, and and we work with them and clean it up, and then build a model. And the community also helps us in terms of evaluation of the quality, and then and sign off before we ship the model. So it's a pretty long engagement we do with the community, and I could provide you links which list out the number of languages we shipped along with the help of community.
And I would add to that, very frequently our customers, they ask us for new language pair, which we are not supporting today. And again, as he mentioned, basically getting data, that is the major challenge that we have. And when I ask our customers, are you willing to donate data? So we can build that model for you. You'll get benefit from it, and other companies will get benefit from it, worldwide benefit. They say, no, thank you very much. Just go there and build it for me. So just kind of like this is more of an advertisement. For those who are interested in a new language, please send to translator at microsoft.com and let us know what language pair, and if whether you are willing to donate data so we can actually start to queue that new language pair into our training pipeline. Super important.
Also, if I have a custom translation, like the case I mentioned, can I donate that to be part of the model that we have already?
Absolutely. I mean, this is actually would lead me to something that I'm reaching out to customers who are, and some of them, they're actually already started to donate data for me. As I mentioned that when you go to use Bing Translate as an example, the easiest way to do it, and you start making translations, you're actually using what we call the general domain models. Okay. And what we want to do, we want to take it a step higher. We want to start to build domain specific starting point, pre-trained model. A good example, we've already built one for the healthcare, the clinical trials. I'm working with a company to actually donate their patents data. So you can actually build that pre-trained model from the get-go that will be patent. So when somebody wants to customize further, they will start from that good point. Okay. So if somebody who's willing to donate, please reach out to me. Again, translator at microsoft.com. And you already have my name, Mohamed Ghazali. I'd like to talk to you and see if we can work together to basically get you to donate data. And we move forward in terms of building domain-specific pre-trained model that all our customers would use.
I'm just thinking, like, there's all these languages disappearing in the world these days, right? I'm just wondering if this could also be used as a way to keep those languages alive.
That's the intention, actually. And this is part of our vision, or actually our mission. It is to preserve, to break the language barriers and preserve the cultural heritage by basically making sure that the language live. I mean, there are more than, I think, 40 million, 40,000 languages or 70,000 languages in the world that are going to be distinct if we don't do something with that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for this was a lot of information. And anyone who wants to give the feedback, if you can find Twitter account of Mohamed and Krishna too.
There's another really important question. Sorry to interrupt you, Aishka, but before we leave, this is a really important question. So Dennis is asking, in which format should that donated data be in?
You can donate it as, like, if you have it in a translation memory, you just dump it into from translation memory. If you have it in PDF, if you have it in the Word document, if you have it text, we can actually take care of that. If you have it in other formats, we will take it as well, and we'll work on basically conform it to the format that we can use to train with.
That's great. Thank you for the question, Dennis. All right, we'll let you go with your day. Unless last thoughts, any things that you want to add?
No, it's a great show, and thanks, Mohamed, for taking through the journey, and thanks, Azure and BR, to hosting us.
Yes, thank you for bringing the demos. It's so exciting to see it live, like how that works.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Loved it. Thank you so much.
I love your show, and certainly I look forward when I go GA to come back so I can show the glorious features that I haven't even talked about yet.
Yes.
We'll keep it as a surprise.
Hopefully,
well, you have our word that we'll have you back, and it's like a very public commitment here.
Yay!
Meanwhile, everyone give it a try it out, and so you can give your feedback and questions to Krishna and Mohamed next time. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Oh,
We'll have lots of people just saying hi, which Ivana.
Hi, Ivana.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Dennis and Prasanna, for the wonderful questions. I felt like you guys asked really good questions. I really appreciate you guys having added so much to the show. Victor says, hello from Brazil.
Hi, Victor. This is amazing.
Vasia says that it looks great. And Mohamed says, hello from Germany.
Oh, yeah, I don't see all of that, but yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining and asking great questions. One thing that I'm really excited, I don't know if everyone got this from it, is, being able to give the documents as it is, with graphics maybe, and then it comes out translated with all of those things in place, which is really, really exciting.
Yeah, that is pretty amazing. Yeah. I was actually thinking, like, I watched this movie a while ago called The Linguists. Have you heard of it, Aishko? Do you know about it, The Linguists?
No.
It's about like some language specialists. They go to different parts of the world. I think they go to 4 different communities, and they try to preserve these 4 languages alive, right? So they try to like meet the last few remaining people that still speak that language, and they try to collect, do recordings and kind of collect like information about that language before it dies, because knowing that old person, if they die soon, then the language dies with them, right? And it was just really, really interesting to see like those efforts happening and just how much work goes into it, and also really sad to see that we're losing that kind of cultural heritage, right, in the world. So yeah, it's like in that fire, and also if you saw like that Firefly, okay, I watch way too much TV, I'm sorry, but like I do, like also like in the Firefly show that it's like a sci-fi futuristic show where the only 2 languages spoken in the future are English and Chinese, and that's it, right? And everybody speaks both, and that's it. There are no more languages because they've all disappeared, right? So it's just the idea that we can maybe stop that from happening. That would be really cool.
Yeah. And the common language is more and more becoming English, right? So like everywhere in the world, people are speaking it, and we stopped learning other languages too. I mean, it is fun to, but thankfully we can translate them at least now.
Yes, exactly. It's exciting.
And it's funny, the languages that are disappearing. I found out at a museum, one of the languages that are disappearing is from where I'm from. I'm from Turkey. And it's called the bird language. I didn't even know that was a language, honestly. Like, we use the term, but I didn't think that was something people communicate with, which is just whistling, basically.
Oh,
But
is it like a localized language in a part of Turkey, or
I mean,
or is
I
it
thought that's what people do to attract birds or something. I didn't think that was a communication thing, and I didn't think that was unique to Turkey. But I watched this video of different people speaking dying languages, and yeah, it was there. To my surprise.
Wow.
Yeah,
that is awesome. Yeah.
And you're a native speaker Portuguese.
Yeah, I speak Portuguese. So there's somebody here from Brazil. Who's here from Brazil?
Victor, and also
Victor. Olá, Victor. And who else?
Ivana.
Ivana is also from Brazil?
Yeah, I think so. Ivana, am I saying it wrong? I hope not.
Olá, Ivana. Tudo bem?
So this is good. We have 2 different languages to test our, language.
Custom translator.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly.
Awesome. And I wanted to ask you also, Ignite is coming. What have you been doing for Ignite?
I have been having a few sleepless nights about it because of Ignite, and I know you have too, Aishul. This is like the little behind the scenes for Ignite, the part that you don't see. Like we come to Ignite and we're all super composed and presented, and we look fresh, and we present this demo like it's super easy. But what you guys don't see, and this is behind the scenes, is what we go through in preparation for that, right? And it is a lot of work. And Aishul and I both have talks there, demos there. So we're gonna both be doing. Aishul's gonna be doing a cognitive services demo, and I'm gonna be doing an Azure ML demo. So what am I gonna be doing? So I'm gonna be demoing 3 features. And again, you get to hear this before everybody else.
Yeah,
so it's a little sneak preview.
Either.
Yeah, so it's exciting. So the one feature I'm super excited about is Terraform support. So now we can create Azure machine learning resources, Azure resources, using Terraform. And Terraform is
yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
It's a declarative language that is used it's very, very popular, used by a lot of companies to kind of instrument of kind of infrastructure across different platforms. So it can create resources, it can do lots of things, and it's platform independent, which is why it's so popular. So it has support, many it's supported by a lot of different companies, right? And so now we support it, which means that anybody that has been using Terraform for their own kind of infrastructure, now they can use that to create Azure ML resources, and that's really cool.
Is it like YAML file? Would people be replacing the YAML file with Terraform? Great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a really good question. So so Terraform has their own language, declarative language called HCL, which I think is HashiCorp something. So and it's sort of like a declarative language like YAML. So at the moment you can create a machine learning workspace with it, and you can create resource groups and also a bunch of security resources like VNets and subnets and things like that. In fact, let me just share my screen, and I can just show you a little bit.
Yeah, and we have one person from Mexico, Michelle. I'm saying that right. Hi, I miss Mexico very much.
So this is actually in public preview since last week, so you can actually already use this.
Oh wow, very new.
But yeah, exactly. So it's exciting, but I am going to be kind of talking about this and kind of announcing this at Ignite. And so you can go to this GitHub. And here you have a bunch of quick start templates that Microsoft has provided that help you create a bunch of resources, Azure resources. In my case, I work for Azure Machine Learning, so I'm really only interested in the machine learning resources. And there are 3 quick start templates that are available for that. So there's like this 101, and we can go here, maybe start with the main. So main here creates a resource group. So the idea is that you can, well, I'll show first what else you can create, and I'll show you how to use it. So, and in here, like let's say in the workspace.tf, you can create like a key vault and a storage account and application insights, which is very cool. This is another feature that I will demo actually at Ignite. And more importantly, you can create your machine learning workspace. And then if you go to the compute.tf, you can create, I think here they create a compute instance and a compute cluster, a CPU cluster. You can easily, I use GPU a lot because, for training, that's often kind of what I want. And so you can easily create a GPU cluster by just changing the VM size here to use an NC type VM that contains GPUs. Those are just some resources, and then the way to use it is you just there's some instructions here, I think somewhere. Well, you just do the usual Terraform. First, you do Terraform init, and then Terraform plan, and then Terraform apply commands. And if you already use Terraform, these are commands that you're certainly familiar with. And then with that, then after you do apply, then you wait for a little bit, and then these resources will show up in your Azure, right? So you'll be able to just use them. So actually, the one that I demo, so there's that basic one, the 101 machine learning. The one that I'm going to be demoing at Ignite is actually this one, which is the 201 machine learning moderately secure. And the cool thing about this one is that it has some security resources. So for example, it has a virtual network, and it has also like 3 subnets, and a bunch of other resources. This creates, I think, 40 something kind of resources that you'll need for your project. Yeah, lots of stuff. And then there's yet another one, which is the 202, I believe. This one. Which you can use if you already have an existing VNet and existing security resources created on your machine, then this one will use those. So we'll ask you what they are. And so there's like a bunch of, it's super well documented. Here are the 3 kind of usage commands that you have to execute to create those resources. So first you do Terraform init, just to initialize Terraform. And then this one creates a plan, and it puts it here, a plan of what Terraform is going to do and what resources it's going to create. And then when you do apply, then it actually does the actual creation of those resources. And then you can just go.
People can take this and customize it further, though, right?
Yes, exactly. Right. That's exactly the whole point, is that you can use this as a starting point. But for example, I was playing when I played with all of them, I think by now, and I always customize my compute cluster to have. I also sometimes also use a CPU cluster, but I always add an additional GPU cluster just because I know that I'm going to use it. I rarely use a compute instance, so I would just take that out most of the time in my project. But yeah, so you can add any resources you want. This is more like a starting point to make it easy for you. And so generally the way to use them is that you would copy these files, you'd put them in some folder in your project, and then you just execute these 3 commands, and then they get the resources get created, and then you just go about with your life just the same way that you would have if you had created them any other way.
This is great. I'm going to ask, is there a VS Code extension for this, like Terraform?
I'm sure there is. Sure there is. I think I may have installed it actually, but it's one of those things that once I put a TF file, it probably popped up and said, "Hey, do you want to install, and I'm pretty sure I saw that, and I said yes, and then it gave me syntax highlighting and all that. So there's a VS Code extension for everything. Pretty much these days. Yeah.
And I'm dependent on them, but it's it scares me to write something from scratch. But it's good to have the feedback of VS Code extensions.
Exactly. Yeah. I agree. Yeah, so like about the Terraform, so I would like to have the PM. I think we'll have the PM for this feature here in the future to talk more about it. Yeah, to talk more in detail. So do keep your eyes open for that. But for like a super quick, like high level overview, then I will talk about that at Ignite. I will also talk about 2 other features. I'll talk about how to use GitHub Actions to create your other Azure ML resources that aren't yet supported by Terraform. Such as like creating your job or creating your endpoint or things like that. You can have that automated. Typically you'd create those with AZML commands, like AZML, like endpoint create, blah blah blah, whatever, and then you refer to your YAML file that has your full specification. But you can also use GitHub Actions. Like if there's a bunch of these that you executing over and over and over, then you can just kind of put them in a little workflow, GitHub workflow, and then just have that be triggered automatically. Let's say when you check in, when you check into main or something like that. You're going to say something, Ashwell?
No, I was going to say if somebody is not familiar with Actions, GitHub Actions, it's GitHub's built-in feature now, right? That allows you to automate things whenever you check out a branch or like you push to a certain branch and things like that. Yeah,
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Yeah. And then the third feature, go ahead.
Was this your first time working with Actions, GitHub Actions?
No, I had worked with them when I created my blog. Actually, when I created like the base kind of code for my blog, I used Azure, and Actions became very useful there. So I used them there for the first time. Yeah. So I got a little bit more experience with them now. And the last feature that I'll be talking about is application insights, and how you can see if you do some custom logging in your endpoints, in your Azure ML endpoints, then you can easily like search for them in application insights and just kind of get an overview of like what the results have been for like people. If you have a ton of people hitting that endpoint, you can have like a nice overview of everything that's been going on. Those are the 3 features I talk about. And so please watch my talk, my demo. Please watch my demo.
And
what about you?
Sign up for free for Ignite.
Okay.
And this is our talk, although we are not listed in the page today, but that's the link.
That's our talk.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
We have a question.
Ooh, I actually don't know the answer to that.
Sorry,
I don't know. Sorry, Dennis. I'll find out. Maybe next show. Yeah.
So I was going to ask actually, you mentioned the analytics. Like, what kind of stuff that you usually log and look at?
Yeah. So what I demo is, for example, so I in the endpoint, I will print. Let's say if there's an error, I will say that there's an error. I'll print that there's an error. If there's no error, then I'll print the timestamp of that the endpoint got invoked. I'll print the result of the endpoint. So in the sample I'll be using, it will be like a classification problem. So I'll say what it was classified as, like what the user's image was classified as, and a few other things. Just like, yeah, the most important things are that I would say the timestamp and the result of the classification, because it's just nice, right? If you have a bunch of people hitting, I want to know what people are classifying, and I want to know the times at which it happened and all that. So, but that's just an example, right? Of you can put anything you want there, any custom logging. Where to look for that talk or demo? So we haven't. So it'll be at Ignite. Okay, that link there, and so Aishkal and I will both be doing demos for that particular talk, for the data and an AI talk. So Aishkal, I want to hear about what you're going to be demoing for that talk. What do you have prepared for us?
So I'm going to talk about some of the speech service features. One of the things that we have is, I think the most used case is having real-time transcription for speech. Anytime we have a meeting that we could do that, but there are newer features like speaker recognition. This one is close to my heart because as you might, I chair meetings for World Wide Web, and when we do that, we can't record, but we have to have transcription at the end of it with who said what, which is really important. And personally, I can't scribe. It's really hard for me to understand people's accents or like what they're talking about, and type at the same time is really, really hard. So I'm going to build something to solve my own personal problem.
Those are the best demos because you personally invested in it.
I know, yeah. And pitch it to my group to say like, hey, can we use this?
Yeah, I love it. I have a question for you, Aishkal. I'm just wondering what the difference is between synchronous and batch speech to text and text to speech.
Yeah, that's a great question. So if we need something like transcription, right, that's real life, and that's synchronous. Like while we're talking, we're sending the data to be either translated or transcribed from speech to text. But so that is pretty good and for transcription purposes. But if you also use the batch on top of it, which is you can send the whole data audio file to the service, then you get more accurate punctuation, grammar, and all of those things are corrected. Also, you might be not using it for real-time transcription purposes. Then you can send all of your data at once and then maybe even automate transcribing them.
Are there any cost savings with that with sending batch versus synchronous?
That's a great question. I don't know, but there might be. Yeah. That would make sense.
Yeah.
Because sending the data in real time is really hard, and latency is very important. So that will be more costly to produce than, having the data and translating in whenever you need.
Yeah, that actually reminds me, so in Azure ML, we also have managed online endpoints and batch endpoints, which is kind of like the same idea of what you mentioned. And so the idea is that you can, after you have your trained model and you have it in the cloud and everything, you can query your model, right? And you can query it in a way that you get your response immediately. Or you can query in a way that the response gets saved in a file and you get it later, right? And one thing about that is that you can always choose a really cheap machine. It's not like batch endpoints are cheaper, but it's more like you can choose a really cheap, slow machine, because if you don't really care about getting the data right away, you can just save a little bit of money there and just get your data later.
Mm-hmm. So if that's the case, probably there is some cost savings on the batch too. That's good to know. I never thought about it.
Yeah.
I'll take a note on that. I had more questions for you, but I'm blanking out right now.
Oh, so what else are you going to be talking about for Ignite?
The other really cool thing about speech service is that you can run most of the features on a container. So that's a very important thing for our customers because of both latency. If you're running your speech models inside your own container or in your own network, that would have a much smaller latency. And also for security reasons, sometimes you might be in a place that you don't want the data to leave your premises at all. So you can on those cases, you can run everything in a container, which is really cool. Yeah, so basically everything that is at the end of an API call is also in that container available to you, which is nice.
That's really cool. So then what are the different options that we have for deployment then? So we can run locally without a container?
You can run it locally and then just make the call to your local IP address, right? And also you can still use the container, but if you
local.
Yeah, on the local, but also you can deploy that container to Azure Container Registry. You can deploy it to the cloud. That way you have best of both worlds. And you are able to also control like who has access to that container and create a private registry. And yeah, those things are maintained for you, but you know that your data is just calling that container, not the actual Azure APIs.
And so 3 options. Go ahead.
The third way is you can just use the REST endpoints APIs, which is you can do it from anywhere, right? From any application.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, we are still not using your data or seeing your data, but still your data is leaving the premises, for example. Like if it's a very secretive thing that you need to keep in place, you might want to do that. And the other advantage I find with the container is, so for example, this transcription app that I'm talking about, I can give that to anyone and anybody else can run it as I'm running it anywhere else too. So I don't have to deploy it, make it available in different places.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, are you going to be talking about the difference between applied AI and cognitive services at all at Ignite? And if not, is that something you can tell us now?
Not this time. I'm not talking, but Eric is talking. So basically there's a keynote and we're part of it. We have the little demos, but I think Eric will talk about it. And thank you for asking. I would love to talk about that. So people might be more familiar with our cognitive services, which are pre-trained models, just like we saw with the translation, and they're available to you at the end of an API call, which is great. But most of the time, you also have to create an application with those services. You have to do a lot of development. For example, if you are taking documentation and trying to digitalize your documentation, right? I mean, not documentation, but documents, paper documents. We have the services that are available to you. There's like image, there's OCR and everything, but you still have to build a lot of stuff. If you want to add translation, that's another thing. If you want to add image recognition, that's another thing. Service in cognitive services that you can use and build your custom solution. But if you don't want to do any of that yourself and want to have a little bit more case-specific solution, you could use applied AI services. So one of them is Form Recognizer. Form Recognizer has all of these capabilities. You can take a picture of your IDs or your receipts and then automatically get a JSON from them with the text fields and everything. So one cool thing about it is it has also ID detection. So the data is trained for passports and I think US driver's license. So basically, you don't have to do anything to try to find out like where is the name, where is the image, what is the ID number. Those things are built into the model.
That's really cool.
Yeah. We have a few others too.
What else? What else do you have?
The video media service that we had, which has kind of tools like spatial analysis. If you are looking at a place where you want to detect people passing a certain point, those kinds of behaviors, those kind of capabilities are built into it. And I think also the media service, if you have a lot of video contents, like transcription, translation, all of those things are made easy and like kind of packaged in one tool. So basically, you can do searches of your videos with, or get the important parts of the video and such. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and it sounds like magic for somebody used to doing everything from scratch in Azure ML to build my own models. It's like, it almost seems like too good to be true.
I know, right? Yeah, that's the thing. But we do also have some tools. Even if you're running your own ML models that you can use, right?
Can you tell us more about that?
Like, how do we make it easy for machine learning developers to do whatever they want to do?
Oh, with Azure ML, right? So that you have like full control. Like you write the code like you always do on your machine, and then you can use Azure ML to do your training. You could just do your training in the cloud and everything else locally. You could like just do your deployment. You could just do your training locally and just do your deployment in the cloud. You could do both in the cloud. So you kind of have options there of how much you want to bring it to the cloud, right? And how much you want to do locally. I personally actually have the habit of always starting locally and doing, my first few kind of attempts locally. And only then, only when I feel like, okay, now I need to train for 5 hours, or I need more than one GPU. I have one GPU on my machine, But if I'm like, I really need more GPUs, I need to run this in parallel, then I'll go to the cloud.
That makes sense. One of the things that was hard was also running the Azure spatial service, and spatial analysis service, because it does require a lot of compute power. So I was running them on VMs too.
Yeah.
Do we?
That makes sense.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm seeing everyone, but anyone has any questions about these and want to learn more about anything else, just let us know. We have a quieter day today. It's raining here. Is that why?
It's raining. It's kind of gray here. So I don't know if you guys know, but Icicle is in San Francisco, and I'm in Seattle. So that's where we're coming from.
Yes.
And what else can you tell us about like translation, and like what other capabilities can you talk about? Like, I know a lot of people are here watching the show because of the custom translation. I'm just wondering what else is going on in that world.
Great question. I mean, there are other kind of cool stuff with speech integration too. So basically, using our SDKs, you can change speech to text and also translate it at the same time too, which is really cool. And we also have a speech-to-speech translation, which means that, if you have a device, well, maybe we should do this one time. Like, we should build this. That would be cool. Like, you could speak Portuguese, I could speak Turkish, and then we can both get a English translation and someone, the content.
Like real time? Like real time translation?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's really cool.
So the idea is that we would be. So the idea is that we would be speaking, and the output would that be text?
You can have both. So it could be text, but it could also be speech. Which is really nice. And the other thing to note on that is, if it's speech to speech, we have less languages available, because it's also like speech generation, right? and the voices and such. So we have less available than text. So we have 100 languages available for text for sure. If you're turning our speech to text and then translating that. And it's pretty fast too, which is really nice. And lastly, I think the other thing is speech portal, just like the translation portal that Mohamed showed us. We have a really cool, nicely newly built speech studio, which makes it really easy to go test your data, right? Without having to write any code or see if you do need a custom translation or not, right? Which is really nice.
So Mohamed is asking, isn't this already in Google Translator?
Yes. So with the Google Translator too, but you might want to translate your own apps, right? You might want to use that transcription
as a service.
Yeah,
as a
if
service,
you're building
right?
something, yes. Like Teams, for example. I don't know if Teams is doing
translation. Yeah. You know, like translation is kind of what got me into AI.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, and I actually don't know very much about it, like in terms of like how, like techniques and kind of like how it works behind the scenes. So then when I started getting into it, then I ended up going into other areas. But that's kind of what motivated me, because at the time, like a few years ago, I lived in China, and I was working there for Microsoft, and I was learning Chinese. So I was having classes on the side, right? So I was learning to read and to write also, and that was a lot of work. I loved it, but it was a lot of work. And at one point, like I was traveling, like in the south of China, and I was trying to communicate with the driver. So we got a driver. We'd just we'd go to one place, one village, spend some time there, and then we'd get a local driver from that village to take us to the next village, and then we'd spend some time there. You know, we did that for like a few weeks. And anyway, so like I was trying to communicate with the driver, and he started asking me things that I didn't know, like using words that I didn't understand. You know, typically I just knew the basics. You know, take me here, take me there, and so I was just he was getting frustrated because I didn't understand what he meant, and so I just took out my phone and I just said, you know, I just got him to speak to the phone, and then it translated, and I spoke to the phone, and then it translated, and I just had like this moment of like, why am I spending all this time learning this super interesting but super hard language, right? And I was thinking, like, if I put all these like multiple hours a day that I was doing that, if I just put that into learning machine learning, then I could help not just myself to speak another language, but I could help other people speak another language, right? And so that's kind of like an epiphany that I had. Maybe I should just be using this time to learn something else that scales, that kind of helps everybody, not just me. So yeah, like, so I think that the application is just amazing. So we have a few comments. So Victor is asking, so do you translate speeches? That would be nice.
Yes, you can translate in real time too. If it's speech to text, I think speech to speech does too, but I haven't played with that yet. But that would be a good episode. We should have that built. Actually, like you see the headsets that I have in the background. One of them is HoloLens, which has transparent. So basically what you can do is we can speak different languages, but have transcription, you know, in front of our eyes, which is really, really powerful.
Does that mean I'm going to get a HoloLens to be able to do that? Can I expense that? Can I expense that as a business expense? Because if so, then I'm totally up for that demo.
If our boss was still set, I would have just say like, go for it, just do it. Thankfully, you know, it's available now. Like a year ago, you couldn't even buy, like you couldn't even get it, even if you work at Microsoft.
And they're also pretty expensive, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
The HoloLens, yeah.
Yeah, $3,500.
$35, yeah.
Yes,
that's a lot of money.
But for some industries, that's not much if if you're using it for work.
Exactly, and if you compare that with the price of a real-time translator, real-time translators make a lot of money because it's a really, really hard skill. You know, somebody who speaks 2 languages, I get how hard of a skill that is, right?
Yeah.
Just be able to translate real time. So yeah, just having that in a way that, you know, you pay $3,500 and you have that forever for every situation, it actually could be a lot cheaper than paying a person to do that.
And Victor was asking me, you know, thinking about making a site with Portuguese and Chinese.
Translator. Can you help me with that? In my infinite time, Victor, yes.
but
honestly,
I think we can plan the next episodes after Ignite to do that here. If
that's true. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Yeah, we can address some of the topics there. Mohamed is saying that for Teams, sorry, I didn't read your message. Like, yeah, so for Teams, that would be great. Yeah, like real-time translation for Teams, it is great. Yeah.
Yeah. I know if we already have it, but basically my demo on the on Ignite is going to be basically that, and the code will be open source, so you can just take it and use it anywhere you like.
Will you be sharing your code?
Yeah. Yeah, you can do that. And yeah, I was going to say, like, speech to speech is much more interesting, but also even for a website too. Like, as a person who has a website, I wouldn't pay anyone to translate it, and that wouldn't be available to everyone. But now I can do that because I can just give the HTML file to the translation service, which is super useful.
That's really cool. I'm actually just thinking I'm going to do that for my own website, right? Why not?
Yeah.
Have it available.
You should train a custom model too, just to make sure that the machine learning language or things like Terraform. So, right, our regular model wouldn't understand what Terraform is, but you can actually train it to understand what it is.
Yep.
Thank you, Mohamed, for the question. And keep them coming. Like, we would love to get your ideas for the next AI shows too. So we have few planned. We were actually talking about neural networks last time. Are we going to continue? We are going to continue talking about
I think that we're done with the neural networks part, but what we would like to continue is kind of talk about Azure ML and cognitive services. So the idea is that we see it as like there being like three pillars or three ways or three like categories of how you would choose to go about in terms of like how you want to host your machine learning and how much kind of customization you need. So like on one extreme, you build your own custom model, you get your own custom data, and you can use Azure ML. You can train it locally and do everything locally, or you can use the cloud to do it, right? And then on the other extreme, and then there's like a gradient, right? Like, so in the cloud, like how much custom do you want? And do you want to use auto ML? Then it becomes a little bit more automated. So there's like a gradient there, even using Azure ML. And then there's like the cognitive services part of it, where you can still bring your custom model, or maybe actually you can talk to that, right? Like, so the gradient, like, so on the Azure ML side, there's like, you can have your custom model locally, or you can train it in the cloud, or you can like use some of our automated features in the cloud. But then beyond that, what would you be able to do using cognitive services? What would the kind of the range of things from more custom to less custom?
That's a great question. So basically, you can use image detection. We do have the tools that you can use, like the form recognizer is one, right? That is solving a very specific problem and trained for a specific thing. And on the other hand, we do have the vision services. We have face detection, and we have object detection, celebrities, and also landmarks. And finally, we do have the custom vision. You don't have to even write any code, and you can basically train your images with different to recognize different things. One of them I did was these headsets, for example. It is not recognizable with our normal base model, because that's not a very common object, right? It's like HoloLens, especially at the time. Maybe now they do have it, but it wasn't able to recognize what is in HoloLens and what is in VR headset. So I trained it to do that without writing any code, using I'm blanking on it. I'll find it actually, so you can continue.
So you basically just like added a few images, and then you extended the model that's already there with those images so that that model became customized to your particular problem, right?
Yes, and I did that with the drag and drop tool basically, and anyone can use it. And another really cool thing about it is that I'll just show you my screen. Sorry, it's going to be this thing for a while. So I'll paste the link to it. Basically, what I was trying to do is say like, okay, this is a VR headset, this is a VR headset, these are hand controllers, and this is HoloLens 1, and this is HoloLens 2. When there's a picture, I want to be able to recognize these. And I try to, like, my husband has been seeing these forever. If I ask him, he can't tell which one is which. So I think this is a good way to do it.
Yeah.
I use Power Platform. One thing that's really cool about the Power Platform is, first of all, you can just train it without writing any code, but also you can just create the app with the drag and drop tools and send it to anyone without having to worry about deploying or anything else, which is really, really nice. It has a feature called AI Builder, which has all of these options to build different applications, right? One of them was custom image models. That's the one that I did. But also it has, it's hard to see from this picture, but like a business card reader or receipt detector and things like that. So you can easily build it for your specific use case, which is really nice. And one thing that was also really cool is that I didn't know like how much it's going to cost me right on the app too, which is really nice. So this is actually nice. Our actual base model for image detection. So on the right side, you could see there is food fair, person, laptop. The all of the circles, I mean, squares are rectangles are the objects that are defined. So there's a lot of things that are defined, which is cool. But headsets were not one of them. And the way I create it, you can create it with the with this app is that there's a tool, you can upload the image, and then you can say, okay, this is one thing, this is the other thing. So this is my quick test at first. I had tons of HoloLens images and not very much VR images, as you can see from this picture. Can you see it?
Yeah. And so you didn't have to write any code for that, right?
Not at all.
You just uploaded some images, you selected them, classified them, and then and it just worked.
Yes. And I learned my lesson about training a bias thing. So if you give a certain classification image more, just in my case HoloLens, than the VR headsets, then the model is biased towards HoloLens. So everything it sees, it thinks that it's HoloLens. But so it is very important to make sure that you have even amount of images for all of them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is a little bit of work to do custom.
I know. Yeah. But the results are super impressive, and also these tools are really nice. Like basically the tagging and everything else is done, and then you can train it, you can test it, and then retrain it, and then deploy it in one place. So basically, this is this is crazy amount of work normally, right? Even
it is a little bit, yeah. To do a good classification. Yeah, I wanted to shift gears a little bit here, and we have like somebody else on our team has his own show. Hank and Amy have their own show, and I was just wondering whether we could play a little clip from that show. If you guys haven't watched a bit of a AI show, Hank and Amy, they interview people and they talk about their story of how they got into AI, what choices they made in their career, in their life to switch to this field, or maybe they've already been in this field like forever. And this is just a really fun show to watch. It's super lightweight. It's like really easy watching, and it's only half hour. And Ashko, can you play us a little clip from that show?
Yeah, I will. And you were a guest too, right?
Yeah, I was actually a guest, I think on Thursday.
Oh, nice.
So yesterday, I think, yeah.
Here we go.
Are you ready, Terry? Are you ready? It is our quick fire round of questions. What was your first programming language?
Too basic.
Python.
It was SQL, maybe PHP, but I don't tell people that one.
I was like, oh my God, did I save a life? Like, have I done this? This is amazing.
A bit of AI show with your hosts, Hank and Amy.
Oh, this looks so much fun.
It is. It is. Yeah, so what they do is they ask a few questions of like your life first, and then they give you like these like quick questions at the end that you don't have a lot of time to think about, and that they don't tell you ahead of time what they are, so it could be anything, just to keep things interesting. What were mine? So I think I was asked what was my first computer. And so my first computer was a ZX Spectrum, which came out in 82, and that tells you how old I am. That is so embarrassing to tell you how old I am. And that's because my brother bought it. My older brother bought it, so I was very young when we got that computer. But it's the first one I remember, and so it just made like an impact in me. I forgot the other ones. That's one of them. They were so quick. I was like, oh, just say something, whatever crosses my head, crosses my mind. Yeah, but we do recommend. And I was also thinking, like, what other resources, like machine learning, cognitive services, AI resources, do you kind of use? Actually, like books, newsletters, like other things. Do you have anything?
That's a good question. I mean, I do get my information internally most of the time with the cognitive services and such. But the other way I get most of my information is through Twitter, actually, because I have certain people who are into AI, and I have a list of them. So they do post when something interesting happens, and yeah. Also, by having these guests here, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's great. Well, same here. So for Azure ML, it's all internally and kind of with the team, right? Like I set up with a team on a regular basis. I do receive 2 newsletters, and one of them is new, so it's actually a good one to mention here. So one of them, I get the batch, which is the one from Andrew Ng. So you can kind of subscribe to it. And that one's good because it tells me about the latest research, like research papers that have come out that are impactful and important to know about. And then the one that is new that there's only one newsletter that came out, but I'm excited about. It's called pnw.ai. So this one's good because it's like specific to Pacific Northwest. The way they put it is the voice of AI in the Pacific Northwest. It's delivered, it's done by the Allen Institute for AI. And that one is maybe a little bit less research focused, and it's more about like things that are going on in the industry, like products that are making an impact, but also research, also like something, you know, diversity, some researchers affecting making diversity better or whatever, you know, that kind of stuff. And they also have a nice job board for people in the Pacific Northwest that are looking for jobs in AI. They aim to be like the source for that. So I do recommend you taking a look if you're in this area.
Great.
Yeah.
Maybe we can post the link below too. Fatih had a question, like what plan we need for the feature on Azure. Well, I'm guessing if I'm understanding your question correctly, like how can you put your request for the feature plans? You can go to AI Playgrounds dash discussions. That's a GitHub repository. You can ask us questions and ask for featured guests maybe that you want to hear about. So I'm taking Victor's question as we want to see how speech translation work. So I promise you we will have that episode very soon. But we have few of some plans in the upcoming. Do you want to tell?
Well, yeah. So, two things. So the next show it will be Cassie and Sabrina that will be talking about the PyTorch profiler. So don't miss that. And also our next show, the one after that. So 2 shows from now, Ashkel and I will be back, and we'll be talking about Ignite, right?
Yeah.
We're doing an Ignite recap.
Yeah, and the highlights from Ignite. And then afterwards, we can do any of your requested ones. So here again, the link to our talk, and let us know what you think about it, and come back and tell us.
And we're going to have some guests too, right?
Yes. Do you want to give that spoiler?
I don't know if I can. I may be fired if I just like talk about things I'm not supposed to. I'm trying to put my job on the line here. I don't know. Can we?
I don't know. I don't know the guest. Also, I thought you might know and want to share, but it's okay.
I know 2 of them. I know. Yeah, we'll have 3 guests. I think we can say that. We'll have 3 guests talking about 3 pretty amazing new features that are coming out soon, or that have already come out recently.
Yes.
Right?
Right. Okay, so here are your action items, everyone who's watching. Sign up for Ignite and watch the talk, and you get an overview. And let us know if you want to see anything else on this show by going to AI Playground discussion, and catch the next show on this link, AI Show Live. So that will have the next show. And we have a playlist where you could see the previous shows. And next week, Seth will be here, and he's funnier and very entertaining.
I think Cassie will be here.
Yes, that's
Cassie
right.
Sabrina.
And
yeah,
she's also funny and entertaining. Yes,
for sure.
And she can tell you a lot about Onyx because she is on that team now.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. This is our time. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and watching. And don't forget to watch the a bit of AI as well.
Can we high five? High five. No, the other one. Yes. High five.
Oh. 1.
1, 2. Virtual high five.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Are you ready, Terry? Are you ready? It is our quick fire round of questions. What was your first programming language?
QBasic.
Python.
It was SQL, maybe PHP, but I don't tell people that one.
I was like, oh my God, did I save a life? Like, have I done this? This is amazing.
A bit of AI show with your hosts, Henk and Amy.